God has given us today. And yeah, so God is telling us today, all your emptiness will become, abundance, and all your weakness will become your strength. All your sorrow will become joy. So that's the word of God. God has, given us when I was praying it, and that's why we sang, "All my weakness will become my strength." And many times, people would say, "It's my luck. Everything is going well." And in the other way, somebody says, "Yeah, it's my bad luck. Nothing is going in the right direction. Whatever I do, it doesn't work. It's my, bad luck. I don't have a luck." And for some people, whatever they do, it all prosper. And they say, "Yeah," but so they don't believe in God, but they simply say, "It's my luck. Whatever I do, it works." And that's how, I'm blessed in this life. And when I was in India, I met one person in our area, and he said his name was Miracle. So in Tamil, we'll say Arpudam. And he told, "I changed my name." I asked him, "Oh, why did you change your name?" "There was no luck in my life. There was no miracle in my life. There is no point in keeping this name. And I don't experience any miracle in my life. My life is going very pathetic condition. I don't want to hold miracle in my name. So I changed my name to something else. So that's why my name is different now than what my parents have given." So that's how many people would think it is only based of luck or bad luck, and they don't believe in God. And those who believe in God, God is saying us to today, "So I'll make all your weakness into your strength. I'll make all your sorrows into joy." So in our life, we think it's just, I'm not useful for anything, like, it's I'm only having weakness. I don't have any greater strength in my life to do something. And I feel like I'm a kind of burden to somebody, and so I cannot add anything useful to the world. So maybe some of us would have felt this kind of thing in our life. Yeah, a burden person, or a waste person, or I'm just, someone who is an addition, and I don't help anybody. But God is saying it. No, I'll make this I'll make this emptiness into an abundance. When Jesus Christ was started his ministry, he was invited for the wedding at the in his own place. He was invited the first wedding, and everyone were there. By the time Jesus Christ had all the disciples for starting his ministry, and they were celebrating the marriage ceremony, and everybody was happy, and they were drinking wines, because it is a custom in the marriage. They serve wine, and people drink wine in in Jesus Christ time. Even now in Western world, that's a custom. In every festival, they drink wine or beer. So the same way they were drinking wine, and everyone were busy looking at the marriage ceremony and other things. But the servants who have to refill the wine, and they were looking at the wine jar, it is empty. And so the person who is serving the wine, so he takes it and he just go and serve all the people who have attended the marriage, and he is serving it. And the people who are delivering this wine, and they are looking at the wine jar, and it is empty. And they don't know what to do. Probably it's Jesus a close relative or somebody. Mary was her mother, and she was responsible for taking care or make sure things are going right. And these servants coming and telling Mary the wine is getting over, and she is running to Jesus, and she is saying it, "Jesus, the wine is getting over." Probably she would have thought Jesus had 12 disciples. Maybe he could send somebody to go and buy the wine because he had the people's strength and people would listen to him. But Jesus said, Lady, what is that for you and me? It's not my time. And then Mary kept quiet. And then she told the servants, do whatever if he says something. So the same way in our life, many times we are looking at the empty jars. Lord, the jar is empty, and I don't know what to do. So Jesus was telling it my time has not come. And Mary told the servants, just listen to him and listen what he says. Whatever he says, do it. So we need to learn from this one. Many times in our life, like we look at the emptiness, we look at our worries, we look at our future, there is no hope, or we look at our strength, we are only weak. And God is saying to us today, just my time has not yet come. So then what shall we do? We have to wait for his time. And when the jar is empty, God is not looking at the empty jar. God is always looking at something abundance inside you that you feel it is your weakness. You feel it is your sorrowful thing in your life. You feel like you are a burden, but God is looking at in a different aspect. So you are looking at only the empty jar, but God is looking at where it is abundance in your life. And then Jesus said, so he looked at the jars which were, filled with water, and those jars were not inside the wedding ceremony because these jars are filled with water for people to wash their hands and feet and cleanse their body when they want to get inside a wedding ceremony or get inside the house. When everybody's attention was looking at the empty jar, like the wine is getting over and there is no wine in it, and we cannot serve for other people to drink, and Jesus was looking at somewhere outside. And so the same way we would be treated somebody ignored or neglected in our life, but Jesus is looking at you, and the world would not look at you, but God is looking at you even though you are kept outside. And Jesus was looking at those jars filled with water. Now you can imagine all the people came inside the wedding ceremony, and it is plenty of water remaining in those jars. That's what Jesus said, pour out those water, pour out that water and pour into this jar and go and give it to the person who is serving the wine. So that's how God will change our emptiness into an abundance. We will be looking at somewhere it is empty, we cannot really reach it, but God is looking at the abundance which is inside you somewhere that you think it is just a waste. You think it is just a kind of extra burden or something not useful, but God is looking at different perspective. When God changes our emptiness, when God changes our sorrows, and when God changes our bitterness in our life, it will become much better than anyone else would have thought. This is how it would become. And we would be thinking, this is my weakness. When God changes your weakness into your strength, even the world would not imagine, is it the same person? That's how God will change. When you are worrying about your sorrowness, when God changes your sorrow into a joy, and nobody could ever imagine how it would change. When they served the water and the water became a wine, the person who was serving, he came back to the bridegroom and asked, is there anybody who served such a tasty wine at the end? Why did you do that? It is such a tasty wine. You would have served, at first. Then every people would have tasted and they would have, delighted. But you have made a mistake. Even the bridegroom did not have any idea what is going on. So that's how when God changes your emptiness into your, abundance, the world cannot understand. That's how God will change every circumstance in our life. So when we look at the story of Naomi, and when there was a famine in Israel, the Naomi's husband Elimelech, he had no choice. He had to move away from Bethlehem, the place where he was living, for finding life, finding some food so that they can survive, finding some job they can survive. So he is moving away from Bethlehem and going among the Moabites. Moabites are the people who do not know God. They have different beliefs. Always they are against God, against the people of Israel. And now he is moving towards that land for finding his life. And he was there quite a while, and he got two sons. So he already had sons, and they are going as a family, but those sons were not married, and they find bride for their sons, and they are getting married. And in another some years, her husband died. Okay, so it's fine. She had very good sons to take care of Naomi in her elder age. And later, after 10 years, two of the sons were also died. Now, Naomi was saying it, God has made my life bitterful. My Lord has, changed my life to a bitterness. And where shall I go? My sons married the woman. They also did not have a children. And who will help us? I came by trusting my husband to a foreign land where I don't have any relatives. He died. And then my hope was with my sons. Now they also died. So we came from Bethlehem to Moab, the place where Moabites are living, just for survival. Now I cannot survive here also. So what shall I do? My life has become bitterness. That's how she was, telling. So when God comes into your life, all your bitterness will become, bitterness. That's how God will change our life. But Naomi did not know. She was worrying it. What shall I do? She was looking at her, sorrows. She was looking at her, bitter side of her life. There were, two daughter-in-laws. What shall she do with them? Could she bear another son and get them married? Would that be possible? No. So now she has decided to go back to her own place instead of surviving into a foreign land where nobody is there to help. Now, so her land becomes prosper. Now this time God has blessed his people and this land, and now they are living a good life. So now, instead of I live and die into a foreign land, I don't have anyone to support. Let me go back to my land. And she was looking at only her empty side, and she was looking at only her bitterness in her life, how she lost her husband and sons in a foreign land. And now she was telling the daughter-in-laws, please go back to your people. I cannot bear any son for you. Even if I marry another person and I get children immediately, sons immediately, would you be able to wait until they grow, and then you can marry? Your life would be spoiled. You would become older. Better you stay with your family. Go to your God, because my God has changed my life as bitter. Like, I came with abundance. I came with the fullness to a foreign land. Only thing, I did not have food in my land. I did not find a living in my land. But now my God has changed my life to a bitterness. Probably you go to your God. He will bless you. He will bless your people. You would find a better life. Then one of the daughter-in-law just stick with her, and she is deciding to come with Naomi. And Naomi always looked at the sorrow, the worst part of her life, but God kept something abundance in her which she did not know. and she was coming back to Bethlehem. All the people were looking at her with wonder. So they were surprised, like, is that Naomi? She is coming back again. She lost her husband and children, and she was saying it. Yes, my God changed my life to a bitterness. So now Naomi did not know what to do. Instead of dying in the foreign land, she came back to her own land. And here also they did not get any anything to do, because she did not have any male person in her family to go and work. So that's how the tradition worked in the older days. Somebody who is a male, they go out and they do some work, and they bring they bring things for the family. Now she is elder lady, and her daughter-in-law also was sticking with her. They did not know what to do, and now they did not even have food to eat. And now she is telling it, her daughter-in-law, saying, maybe this is the harvest time. People would do a harvest and they collect, and something would be spilled over and it will fall into the ground. I go and collect it. At least we have something to eat. But so that's why Naomi said, Ruth, you don't have to follow me. My life has already become bitterful. If you come and follow me, what are you going to gain? But she was, saying it. Don't say that. I have determined to serve you. When my husband was living, I was serving with honesty, and when her in-law, her in-law was living, that time also she was serving with honesty. Now you are alone, and I'll not let you alone. I would stick with you. Where you go, I would go. Where you stay, I would stay. The people are your people, and they are my people. The God you worship, I would worship. The God, your God, would be my God. So that's how she determined to follow Naomi. And now she is going and collecting the spilled food, and there is a person. She is meeting kind of they'll call the redeemer. And so in olden days, if somebody does not have any male person in their family, then in their relatives, somebody has to give life to them, so that their descendants would continue. And that's how she is meeting Boaz there. And then so finally Ruth is getting married to Boaz. And now Naomi did not even realize, and people were saying it, if you would have you went with the two sons, but now you have a daughter-in-law who loves you so much than your husband, so much than your two sons. She is equivalent of more than seven sons. And God has changed your life with abundance. So that's how Naomi was always looking at her bitter side of her life. She lost her husband, she lost her sons, and she is coming back with the sorrow. But God was keeping some abundance with her, which she thought nothing would be useful. And she is also become a burden for her. The burden which she believed, God changed that burden into an abundance into her life. God changed that sorrow, what she was experiencing, become a joy through her, daughter-in-law in her life. That's how God will change every of our circumstance. So there was a person called Boaz who became a guardian, a redeemer for Naomi, and he gave life to Ruth. He was a great person. Not only he was rich, and he could also establish her genealogy after her husband and sons died. He agreed to marry Ruth, and then their life became prosperous. And she also got a child, a male child, to continue her descendant in Israel genealogy. So when we look at the bitter side of our life, when we look at the weakness side of our life, God is looking at something. He kept abundance in our life, which we never realized it. So all that we have to do, just listen to God. As Mary was saying it, listen, whatever He says, just do it. So God will, show us direction in our life. God teaches something when we are experiencing bitterness. Let's not looking at only the bitterness part of it. Let's not look at only the sorrow of our life. Let's not look at only the weakness part of our life, where God is asking us to look at. So He keeps some abundance in each and every one of our life when we are experiencing such moments in our life. Let's look into God. Lord, where shall I look at? What shall I do, Lord? So God will give you the guidance. God will show you the path. Just go towards the path, and He will make all your sorrowness into a joy. All your bitterness will become betterness. All your weak will become strong. When we feel everything was over in our life, everything is done, you know so God will change your circumstance. So the people would have thought everything is done, but God would begin where it was done. So as Naomi had the guardian redeemer to redeem her family line in the ended history of her family, there were no male in her family to continue her descendants in the family line of Elimelech. And God sent Boaz as a guardian redeemer for her family. So that's how in our life Jesus Christ is a guardian redeemer, where we feel all are ended in our life, all our things are over, all our efforts are finished. And so we need to remember Jesus Christ is our guardian redeemer in our life. And He is there for us to redeem our life where it was ended and where we feel it's over, and He will begin from that place. And even when we look at Ruth, faithful daughter-in-law, and she was recognized for her characteristic, and nobody could have seen such a daughter-in-law in that time, knowing there was nothing left. She decided to serve her, mother-in-law. And, she was just following her. No matter even, if people kill me, let me die. Even at the cost of my life, I would not leave you alone. And even when she was going and collecting the spilled food, it was a risk, because the people who are doing harvest, they don't want to waste anything, and if somebody collects it and they make they hurt them. Even she was aware of it, but she was ready to go and collect the leftover so that she and her mother-in-law can survive. She did not know. She was looking at, there was no future at all, but still I have decided to stick into my mother-in-law. I would help, I would stick to her, I would worship the God she was worshiping. I know about that God. Even though our life looks like a bitterful, there is no future, there is nothing bright, looking at with our own eyes. She decided to speak, and she was coming in. We can imagine. So this Boaz was an older person. He was an old man, and she was amazed when Ruth wanted to marry her. So this, now Naomi would have used it as an opportunity, because Naomi also was an older lady, so older person and older lady, and he has to redeem her family line according to her, family relationships. But she decided, not to use that opportunity, and she decided to give to Ruth. That's how Ruth life became, prosperous. And Ruth did not look at, and she was looking at only the empty part of it. She was looking at only the hopeless part of her life. She never imagined she would get a new person and she would get a new life into a foreign land. Now Bethlehem has become a foreign land for Ruth, the same way Naomi was in Moabit land, and she had no hope at all. But when she trusted God, God was looking at the part, like when she looked at, there was no hope. but God was giving her hope. So finally, she found Boaz, and she married Boaz. That's where the great King David, he was rising from her family line, and later Jesus Christ also following in the same family line. So many times we do not know how God works in our life. When we look at the emptiness, when we look at our weakness, God has something. God has kept some abundance. God has kept some strength in us. God has kept some joy within us. And all that we need to do, we have to ask God whatever He says, just to follow. You don't know when it will happen, when the sorrow will become joy, when the weakness will become your strength, when your emptiness will become abundance. Just follow the path what Jesus Christ is showing in our life.